Shalom Aleichem and welcome. Today we're going to welcome to Online Smicha. We're going to discuss the who's who on the page of the Shulchan Aruch of the mishpat in Chelek mishpat. Now you've heard from the other recordings that the Shulchan Aruch, there are, when you say Shulchan Aruch, there is the Tur Shulchan Aruch, which was the son of the Rosh, wrote the Tur, and the commentaries on the Tur is usually the Beis Yosef and the Bach. Then came along the Shulchan Aruch that we're studying, which is the Shulchan Aruch that the Beis Yosef wrote after he wrote a commentary on the Tur. He wrote a new Shulchan Aruch, which we use the final Shulchan Aruch. And over here, the main two poskim and the insert of the page is the Mechaber and the Ramah, the Beis Yosef and Ramoshe Isilish. The Mechaber is the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Cairo. All the Sfardim follow his Piskei Dinim, and the Ramah is Ramoshe Isilish. The Ashkenazim follow his Piskei Dinim. So we made a recording already about the Shach, the Taz, all the commentaries that are on the Yoreh Deah page. Today we're going to concentrate who's who on the Choshen Mishpat page. So either you open up to Siman Ayin Hey, where we're going to start learning, or just open up to any page in Choshen Mishpat. And let me tell you who the main commentaries on the page are. So just as there is in the Yoreh Deah, the main two is the Shach and Taz. In Orach Chaim, the main commentary is the Magen Avram and the Taz. And in the Choshen Mishpat, the two main commentaries are the Shach, the Sifsei Koyin, the Shach. It's the same Shach that we learned in Yoreh Deah. And if you look on the other side, is Me'iras Einoyim. The Me'iras Einoyim. Me'iras Einoyim, in a short, the way he's really called when you quote him is the Smeh. On my whiteboard you can see this. The Smeh. The Smeh is an abbreviation for the word Sefer Me'iras Einoyim. So every time we say the Smeh says so and so, it's a quote from the Me'iras Einoyim in Choshen Mishpat. Who is the author of the Me'iras Einoyim? And let's hear a little about him. So the author of the Me'iras Einoyim is a well-known Rav called Rabbi Yeshua Polak, or Rabbi Yeshua Volk. Okay, these are the two ways to pronounce his name. What years did he live? Obviously, I'm going to be saying this in the Jewish calendar. He lived in the Jewish calendar from the year 1555 to the year 1664. 1614. Rabbi Yeshua Polak. His yard site is Yud Tes Nisan. What do we know about Rabbi Yeshua Polak? He was born in Krakow. He learned, his teachers were very famous learned teachers that we quote a lot, was the Marshal and the Ramah. The Ramah in the Shulchan Aruch that we quote, Ramoshe Isilish, he was one of the Smeh's teachers. From his students, who were his students? The great Shalah HaKadosh. The great Shalah was one of his students, and the father of the Shach was one of his students. So the Smeh obviously is older than the Shach, just like in the Yoreh Deah. The Taz is older than the Shach. In the Choshen Mishpat, the Smeh is older than the Shach, and the Smeh, actually, one of his students is the father of the Shach. And the Smeh, the Sefer Me'iras Einoyim, Rabbi Yeshua Polak, he passed away in Lvov. All right. What do we know about his writings, about his Sfarim? So first of all, the Smeh, this great Rav, Rabbi Yeshua, he was a very poor man, and he was chased out from place to place. until his son-in-law, which his son-in-law's name was Yisrael Eisels. His son-in-law had some money. He was a rich man, built a house for his father-in-law, this great Rav, and once he had this luxury of his son-in-law supporting him, he was able to dedicate time to sit and learn and become the great person he was and write Svarim. And that's why he refers to his Svarim as Beis Yisrael. Why Beis Yisrael? Because his son-in-law's name is Yisrael, and he was only able to do all his writing in the house of Yisrael. In the house of Yisrael, he in this Beis Yisrael, he wrote comments on the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. He spent all the time writing his Sfarim on the Torah and on the Shulchan Aruch. Now, the same Reb Yeshua, the same Smeh, wears different hats, meaning there are different commentaries that you see on the Shulchan Aruch and on the Torah. It's all the same person. Many times, and for those who are already learning with me for a long time, you see that the Smeh quotes, and he says, Ubeprisha kasafti, ubedrisha kasafti. I already wrote in the Prisha or in the Drisha. The Prisha and the Drisha, if you would look on the Torah, so as I mentioned, the main two commentaries on the Torah are the Beis Yosef and the Bach. But if you look in the Torah in the bottom of the page, there is two other commentaries. One is called the Prisha, and one is called the Drisha. They were both written by the same person. You see over here? The Rabbi Yeshua wrote comments, and he divided into 4 categories, 4 sections. One section he called the Drisha. The Drisha he wrote on the Torah, and that is basically pilpulim, questions and answers discussing what the Torah, quoting a statement from the Torah and discussing it, making a pilpul. And the other and right near it, he has a commentary called the Prisha, which are not difficult discussions, rather simple explanations. So he has the Drisha on the Torah, the Prisha on the Torah. Then he wrote a third commentary called Hagos Drisha Uprisha, like the additional what I want to add more comments to the Drisha and Prisha. That's primarily comments on the Darkei Moshe. The Darkei Moshe is the Ramah, so he wrote another commentary to now discuss what the Ramah said. Those all, the Drisha and the Prisha and the Hagos Drisha Prisha, are all on the Torah. After he did that, he wrote our Smeh. The Smeh is the Sefer Miras Hanayim. He wrote it to explain what the Shulchan Aruch, what the Mechaber meant, what the Ramah was saying, but the Smeh is only on Choshen Mishpat. The Prisha and Drisha you could find on other sections of the Shulchan Aruch. The Smeh on other sections of the Torah, The Smeh is only a commentary that he wrote on the section of the Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat. He actually wrote this commentary, and he gave it over to print in Prague. But right before it started going to print, he passed away. In his will, in his tzava, Rabbi Yeshua wrote, he begs from his students, he begs from people to really study his writings and please to print what he wrote. And now it became a standard text, that part of the Choshen Mishpat text, on the right side you usually find, the right side or left side, depending what side of what page, you usually find the Smeh. Now, he's famous for his commentaries, as I mentioned, in the Shulchan Aruch and on the Torah. The Smeh also wrote many, many other books. He wrote 14 volumes on 14 Masechtas on Shas. He wrote on Chumash, and he wrote many, many other books, but they all got burnt once in the fire. What we have left is what we are learning here in the Shulchan Aruch, and that is the Smeh, Sefer Me'iras Einayim, one of the main poskim on Choshen Mishpat. Let's go to the next section. The next one, you look in the bottom, further down in the bottom of the page, you'll see Nesivos HaMishpat. Nesivos HaMishpat. Now, for all those who are learning with me until now, we never really gribbled and did the lumdus and did so. We only did Pischei Tshuva. But now we're going to the meat and potatoes of Choshen Mishpat. When you're learning Tayin V'Nitan, you would really want to enjoy by learning it in depth with the more of the commentaries. So there is no yeshiva in the world that you could learn Masechta Baba Kama, Masechta Baba Metzia, Masechta Baba Basra, and not have a shir, a discussion in the Gemara where there is a dispute between the Ktsois and the Nesivos. Ktsois, Nesivos. Every Lamda shir, every in-depth shir of Gemara in financial disputes is always the Ktsos says this, the Nesivos says this, and what are they fighting about? And who is the Ktsos and who is the Nesivos? What books do they write? They are both on the page. When you look on the page of the Shulchan Aruch, you see there is Nesivos HaMishpat. That's when you hear somebody quoting a statement or a question or answer from the Nesivos, he's quoting what's written in Choshen Mishpat in the Nesivos HaMishpat. And when you hear somebody quoting a statement from the Ktsos, he's quoting from the Ktsos HaChoshen, all in the text of what we find here in the Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat. So let's talk about these two great giants. These are literally any discussion of financial matters, in any yes, no, maybe so, there's always going to be debates and discussion. What did the Nesivos hold? What did the Ktsos hold? And they are really the juice of understanding these halachas. So who is the Nesivos? The Nesivos, his name is, the last name is a very long name. Reb Yaakov Lorbrabrain. I don't know how to pronounce this. I know that usually, most of the time, you don't even pronounce his last name. He's usually called the Goin from Lisa. Reb Yaakov Melisa. You'll find him in a lot of places in the halacha. They quote Hagoin Melisa, Reb Yaakov Melisa. He lived from the years 1770 to the year 1832, again in the Jewish calendar, and his yahrzeit is Chaf Hei Iyar. He was in Poland. Lisa is a city in Poland, and he is known as the Goin from Lisa, or a lot of times they would just quote him by saying the Baal HaNesivos, the author of the Nesivos. We find he lived in the same time of many big Torah giants. In many of his campaigns to spread Yiddishkeit and doing the right things, he worked together with the Rabbi Akiva Eger, the famed Rabbi Akiva Eger, and the great Chassam Sofer. These are the people who he worked together with sometimes. His family, who are his family? So what I found is the tradition says that this Rabbi Yaakov got divorced 3 times. He was divorced from 3 women, but he had 2 sons and 3 daughters. Let's talk a little about the Nesivos. What Svarim is he known for? So he's known for, on Yeredeya, which we're not learning now, we're learning Choshen Mishpat, but on Yeredeya you'll see constantly quoted, the Chavas Das says so and so. The Chavas Das. Who is the Chavas Das? That's this our Nesivos, Reb Yaakov. And then he wrote the Nesivos HaMishpat, which we have in our page on the Shulchan Aruch on Choshen Mishpat. Now, when you look on our page in the Shulchan Aruch, just like there's the Prisha and the Drisha, the Smer wrote the same thing, but he divided into two categories, Prisha and Drisha, when he wrote his comments on the Torah. The Nesivos has Nesivos HaMishpat, one section is Biurim, and one section is Chidushim. The Biurim is just simple explanation. The Chidushim is the in-depth debate, discussion, the who's up, who's right, and who's wrong. So it's the easy stuff. He split into the Biurim part, and the Chidushim he put into the difficult part. He also wrote a sefer. Now, as I told you before, the Nesivos is in a constant fight with the Ketzos. It's like, in the Gemara, there's Abaye and Rava always arguing. The Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel always arguing. In almost every concept that you're going to be dealing with in issues of Choshen Mishpat, there is always the Ketzos says this, the Nesivos says this. It basically started that the Nesivos wrote his Pirush, and the Ketzos came along and saw what the Nesivos wrote, and he attacked him and wrote his own thing. So when the Nesivos saw the Ketzos' comments, then of course he has to rebuttal. So he wrote a sefer Yair Nasiv to answer the comments the Ketzos has on him. So that's all in Choshen Mishpat. Then another famous sefer in Orach Chaim, especially we use this a lot in Hilchos Pesach, is the Mekar Chaim. It's all the same person. It's the same Reb Yaakov. Teiras Gittin he wrote on Even Ezer. So this is a great tzaddik, a great Talmid Chacham, a great Rav, Reb Yaakov, that is accepting a lot of Sidurim. You'll see in the back they have short, sweet halachas from Reb Yaakov, from Reb Yaakov Melissa. This is the Baal HaNesivos that we'll be learning here. Okay, and then we go down to the Ketzos. In the bottom of the page of the Shulchan Aruch, you see the Ketzos HaChoshen. The Ketzos HaChoshen, if you could come along to any shul, any yeshiva, and say, I want to tell you a chiddush, I want to tell you a Ketzos, you got everybody's ears to listen. Because if you reach the level that you could come along and say a Ketzos, you basically reach the major leagues. That is, it's like Rabbi Akiva Eiger. There are a couple Sfarim, there are a couple Rabbanim, Ga'inim, that if you quote them, that means you understand the topic very well. Rabbi Akiva Eiger. Rabbi Akiva Eiger is known for his in-depth, genius discussions in Torah. Rabbi Akiva Eiger, the Ketzos, the Shagas Aryeh, the Rugged Shover. These are names that are in the league for themselves. Who is the Ketzos? The Ketzos is Reb Aryeh Leib Heller. He lived from 1745 to 1812. I made a mistake before I said the Nesivos was older, but it looks like the Ketzos was older. The Ketzos was older. He lived from 1745 to 1812. He passed away on Yud Tes Tevis, and he passed away in Austria. The story is told about the Ketzos that he was a very, very, very poor man. But incidentally, you see that one after another, when they write the history of the people who are big Torah Yidden, they always say he was, despite the fact that he was poor, he had nothing, he was able to do what he did. It's mamish what the Mishnah says. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, anybody who keeps Torah when there's time is tough, when it's ba'ayni, when it's Rachman al-Tzlan, he has nothing. Soifa l'kaima ma'isher. He'll eventually do it with the harchava. Will have everything. Especially these people didn't really need anything. They were mistapik b'murt. But the fact is, they were very poor. The Ketzos was a very poor man. This genius piece of work of the Ketzos, he wrote when he was in his 30s. When he got a hold of what the Nesivos wrote, so he wrote a sefer called Mishover of Nesivos to rebuttal to to respond and contradict or whatever the nesivos. So basically, the sefer mishover of nesivos is to respond to what he doesn't like the nesivos wrote, and what the Yorin Nasiv is a sefer that the nesivos wrote that he doesn't like what the Ktsas wrote. So you could see what's going on. Now they even though they were Torah arch enemies, in the sense they were always like the Abaye Verova, the Beishami Beisilo, but nevertheless they got along very well. One big difference that split them was the Ktsois was leading towards the Mesnagdim. The Nesivos was leading towards the Hasidim. About the Nesivos, it's known that he was close to the Hasidim. One of his son-in-laws was actually a friend of the Chedushei Arim of Ger, and was actually a student of the Rebbe Rabbunim. So his family, the Nesivos, his family was happy with Hasidim. The Ktsos, however, was a real fighter against Hasidim, a real misnagid, but he was still the great Ktsos. But being that he was a misnagid against Chassidim, it came as bad that one time, due to a circumstance in his neighborhood or whatever, since Chassidim did something, he went out and put those Chassidim in Cherem. So here the great Ktsas put Chassidim in Cherem. So from one hand, what for? I mean, the Chassidim is not a crime. But from the other hand, it's not nobody that's doing it. It's the Ktsas that did it. So the story is told that these Chassidim who were placed in the Cherem went to their Rebbe, to the Chayzim of Lublin, and wanted to visit him and wanted to speak to him about different things. So the Chayzim of Lublin, the Chassidish Rebbe, said, don't let the Chassidim in to see me until the time of their Cherem expires, because as long as they are in Cherem, I can't see them. And they were shocked. And afterwards, when the Cherem expired, he said to them, Cherem and no Cherem, if you deserve to, if this was deserving on you to get, but the fact is, a Torah giant like the Ktsas did this, I have to keep it. I have to honor what a Torah giant like the Ktsas did, and therefore I couldn't see you during that period of time of the Cherem. The Ktsas is also famous. See, you have to. By the way, you guys have to start using the yeshivish language. When you quote somebody like this, you don't even quote him by name. You don't say Rabbi so and so said, Rabbi Heller, Rabbi Aryeh Leib. You quote him by his sefer. The Ktsos says so and so. The Nesivos says so and so. That's the way the yeshivish world. Two of the other famous svarim that the Ktsos wrote. He wrote the famous Shav Shmaitzer. Again, you cannot go through a yeshiva of 5 years of learning and not come through a Shav Shmaitzer. Shav Shmaitzer he basically has a collection of 7 topics. The whole book is just discussing 7 topics, but it's an in-depth book called Shav Shmaitzer, a very famous sefer. And another sefer is in Even HaEzer. For those who learned Even HaEzer with me, the Avnei Miluim is very popular, and this is all the same person made by this great Rav, the Ktsos, Reb Aryeh Leib Heller. It is traditionally told that they once asked the Ktsos, "In what was your schus? What was your schus that you were zoicha to write all these svarim, and this great svarim, these deep svarim? What was it that your sefer was neskabel? It's a home. It's every Jewish home has that sefer. Why? What was your merit?" And he was asked by the Nesivos that question. So he asked the Nesivos to tell him what is his schedule of the day. And the Nesivos said, when I sit down to learn, I start learning something fresh. And when I learn something fresh, I start my writing of the day, something new, start off fresh. And the Ktsas says this is exactly the reason why I was more successful. I was merited to my things to be spread out more. When I start the day, I first review what I did yesterday, and to see what I did right and what I did wrong. And sometimes I go over the things that I did, and I either take it out or I add something, and then I go forward. And that was the difference. And b'schus that I had the merit that many people learn my sefer. So these are the smeh, the nesivus, and the ktsas. There is one more that I didn't have a chance to write on the board, but if you look in the Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat, you find the Chidushei Hafla. He is also a very famous Rav. The Hafla is Reb Pinchas Halevi Horowitz. He was born in the year Tuf Tzadik. He's a great-grandson from the brother-in-law of the Ramah, and his yichus is from Rashi. The yichus is from the Maral Prague. He has a big yichus, a chain, all the way to Malchus Beis David. Now the Hafla, most of his learning, he learned by his brother, the great Rebbe, Reb Shmelkem in Nickersburg, who was a Talmud of the Mezritcha Magid. Right? So you see, the Hafla is one of those Sfarim that are written from a Chassidish tzaddik. He was a very poor person. Again, we see that point. And eventually, when he became the Av Bezdin of Frankfurt, over there he became this popular Marbitz Torah for more than 33 years. He had many, many students in Nigla and Nister, and his Sfarim, the Hafla, the Chidushei Hafla, and the Sefer Hamakna, and the Sefer on Chumash, Ponim Yofes, and he has many other Sfarim that are very, very, very popular. At his older age, he Nebuch became blind, but he never wanted to go through a surgery or whatever healing procedure was available back then, because he said for Olam Hazeh, to be able to see Olam Hazeh, I don't need more than one eye. I'm sorry, for even one eye, I don't need for Olam Hazeh. I'd rather not see the schmutz and the nonsense of the Olam Hazeh. And for the studying of Torah, it is enough one eye. So he didn't want to go through a extensive healing process. As long as he had enough sight to be able to learn, it was fine. There is a letter where he writes to his mechutin, the great Noida B'Yehuda, where he tells him, please don't give the great tzaddik, Rabbi Michal Mizlachev, don't give him any hard time, because he means everything he does in Shem Shamayim. When he passed away, and when a student said a hesped on the Hafla, one of the main things he said is, you know what, you might not know his greatness yet, but if you want to know how great he was, just look at who his student is. His student is Reb Moshe Sofer, the great Chassam Sofer, and from his student you could see how great